I'm going to stop this lecture with this little discussion of fatalism because it's connected to what we just talked about, and that's enough for this particular. Yeah, I'll leave the religion stuff, which there was a lot, but you may or may not be interested in that. If you are, let me know, and we'll talk about it. When resuming. You can see, that after the sort of lack of agency, what will come about is sort of fatalistic worldview where you say, well, it doesn't really matter what I do. I'm going to get killed no matter what. And this is certainly the point, or the point that many of the soldiers and many non-soldiers, civilians came to as well, which was that they couldn't really affect much. They could do their best to survive, but there was no guarantee that anybody was going to survive, even if they were following the best advice. And this is why total war, starts to look like the thing, and not some kind of limited war, which, as I say, I will talk about more extensively in this third part that's coming. Oh boy, something something to look forward to. And what you can see with Vonnegut is that there is a sense of, not hopelessness, because that's not really right, but pointlessness to struggling against what's coming, right? And Billy has this image of Billy on the flat car, right? That Billy is strapped to this flat car which is shooting down these rails, and that's it. He's looking through a pipe, and that's all he can do is look through a pipe. And to some extent, that's his picture of all of us in our lives, that we're shooting down a rail line that's already programmed, and we're stuck. Now, remember that Vonnegut, the narrator, is suggesting this as a possibility for the way that Billy, or as the reality for the way that Billy lives. But Vonnegut himself, the author, Kurt Vonnegut, who creates this book, because of his, as I've talked about, his political commitment to humanism, what was called humanism, for want of a better word, that's what it was called at the time, which was understood to be, as I say, a non-denominational, non-spiritual, secular agreement that we would treat each other well, basically, as I say, it's sort of like a UN except for everything, like the UN of everything, right? That this is where Vonnegut was going. So it's not as though he'd given up. These may be the books of somebody who is upset, angry, depressed, but they are not the books of somebody who has surrendered. And this is, as said, there's no point in going on. He didn't commit suicide. He lived to be a good old age, and he went on smoking like a chimney the whole time. He smoked Pall Malls too, which were unfiltered. Oh my God, they were strong. So he says on page 8, another thing they taught was that nobody was ridiculous or bad or disgusting. This is when he's in college. Shortly before my father died, he said to me, you never wrote a story with a villain in it. And I told him that was one of the things I learned in college after the war. That basically there are no villains, effectively. There are bad things that happen. But villains, it's like, nah. That's for Hollywood. There is always some a villainous villain, But really, it's people who want different things. And there are people who stand by while other people organize mass murder. And the people who organize mass murder, certainly, as far as most of us are concerned, are villains. But at the same time, most of us are probably, in one way or another, invested in some kind of bad behavior that hurts somebody else in the world. I mean, if you have a phone, then you're keeping Apple in business, and Apple is hiring people in these killer factories. They're not paying them properly, and where were my clothes made? They're probably made in Bangladesh, or some other place that doesn't have, I'm sure it doesn't have unions. God, and they probably pay the cheapest wage they can, and it's not. I'm sure that's not safe conditions for them to work in. So I'm not planning a mass murder, but at the same time, I can't say that I'm innocent. It's like, which of us can say, living in the kind of capitalist world that we live in, that, oh yeah, we're innocent of hurting other people by the way we buy. Let's say I wouldn't get into that. Frankly, I would say no. We're complicit in this process. But anyway, and so as a result, on page 60, Vonnegut's Vonnegut, the narrator says, Billy was not moved to protest the bombing of North Vietnam and did not shudder about the hideous things he himself had seen bombing do. He was simply having lunch at the Lions Club, of which he was past president now. Among the things that Billy Pilgrim could not change were the past, the present, and the future. And so there's this, again, page 60. So there comes to be this sense that basically you are trapped by events around you, which have much more force than you personally have, than the agency that you can exert. And so this is the question about basically just how much personal force can you exert on the world around you. Okay, have a look at these last points, which are, I'm just looking to see if there's anything here that is unusual. No, I think this is probably, I think this should make sense to you. And I'll see you on the next rock.